Good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, and the time now is 6 p.m. And I will call to order this regular meeting of the Town of Mead Board of Trustees. In accordance with the town's remote participation and remote meeting policy adopted by the Board of Trustees on March 13th, 2023, by resolution number 21-R-2023, remote participation will be allowed. The meeting link has been provided on the town's website at designated posting place 24 hours prior to the meeting. I'd like to remind everyone present, both in person and virtually, of the town's general guidelines for public comment at open meetings and public hearings. The guidelines are available online and on the entry table. There are 2 public comment opportunities on the agenda for persons in attendance at Town Hall to address the board. The first is limited to items on the agenda, and the second public comment opportunity allows any subject whether it is on the agenda or not. Mary, roll call, please.
Mayor Whitlow.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Here.
Trustee Adams.
Here.
Trustee Broadhead.
Here.
Trustee Harris.
Here.
Trustee Parr.
Here.
Trustee Schranz.
Here.
Mayor Whitlow, today is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, and you do have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Please join me in a moment of silence for Golden Police Officer Evan Dunn, who lost his life in the line of duty, and for all veterans who have bravely served their country. Thank you very much for your time. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you again. The agenda has been amended to include the updated check register. And I would like to move 6B, the name of the snow plow winners, in front of the Excel wildfire mitigation efforts. And I think that we have another motion by our attorney tonight to amend the agenda. Sir?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Whitlow. I would like to request that we amend tonight's agenda to add an executive session for specific legal questions as agenda item number 11. To immediately follow agenda item number 10, which is the elected officials reports. This will result in adjournment being bumped to agenda item number 12 on the amended agenda. The new agenda item number 11 will read as follows. Executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute Section 246402-4B for legal advice on specific legal questions pertaining to the Board of Trustees, rules of procedure and standards of conduct. If the mayor and trustees are okay with this amendment, I simply need a trustee to say so moved.
So moved.
Okay. And Mayor, if they ask for a second, please, on that motion.
Please, a second. Thank you very much. Marcus, please advise me if I need to redo or re-say the motion of all the updated check register, the change of 6B to 6A and the motion that's on the table.
Yeah, I think we can do that as a consolidated motion to approve the amended agenda as amended.
All right. Okay, is there any discussion? Okay. All right. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Broadhead.
Yes.
Trustee Parr.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you very much. Motion carries. We have an amended agenda for the night. We'll move on to our staff report by our town manager. Ma'am, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor, trustees. You have my report. I did want to offer a couple of updates. If any of you have been in and around downtown, there seems like there's constantly different work going on. I just kind of wanted to separate out. Their Comcast crews are in running fiber. So at some point in the next month or so, there should be Comcast. You know, it's marching north from the south end. So hopefully it'll be available to downtown. But But also tomorrow, they're going to close the alley between 6th and 7th Street, between Palmer and Dillingham. There's a CenturyLink has a line break, so they hope to have it all done tomorrow, but it could be 2 days. I just pointed out because it seems like there's always something going on, and sometimes it's related to the community center and sometimes it's just other utilities. So just to make you aware. Also, if you drove by Mead Place today, you'll see a sign that says Hal Irwin Construction Entrance. So there's a lot of activity going on with that project, and you'll be considering another SIA amendment at the next board meeting. They are working with a buyer, and much like a 1031 exchange where you have to have multiple things happen, they have to have several things happen that day before they can close on the property and start construction. So that's exciting. That's a really strategic piece. And staff, Marcus, we've been working with them for a long time, as you know. It's been on the boards for quite a while, but that project, knock on wood, is moving forward. And that's all my updates. And I have, if you have any questions.
Questions or concerns for Helen? All right, thank you for your report. All right, we'll move on to our informational item. 6B is now 6A, and we'll name the snowplow winners. And our event and media specialist, JC Reinhardt, will be here. I think we need to change the last name.
Going to the Social Security office this
Thank
Friday.
you. JC, everyone just received, she just got married. So congratulations, ma'am, very much.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and trustees. Tonight, I'm excited to talk about the new community event we implemented this year, named the Snowplow. We invited Mead Elementary School students to submit their fun and unique snowplow names for a chance to see them displayed on our public works snowplows this winter. We opened submissions up in early September and then closed them in mid-October to give internal staff and the Board of Trustees an opportunity to vote on the top 3. We notified the winners on October 24th, and tonight those students will receive their very own personalized sign. They will also have the opportunity to ride in their named snowplow during the annual Parade of Lights on December 7th. Out of 29 total entries, our first ever Name the Snowplow winners were Dolly Plowton, submitted by Presley Cuthbertson. Control Salt Delete, submitted by Alex Hamilton. And Plowsaurus Rex, submitted by Camden Cuthbertson as well. I would like to congratulate our winners and invite them up to receive their signs and take a photo with the board. All right, where's Presley? That's your sign. We have Alex. There you go. And then that means that one is yours. All right, then we're just gonna come up to the front real quick and take a quick photo.
All right, moms, get your camera. That's what I think.
There you go. There you go. All right.
For the board.
One smile. All right, thank you. Okay. Congratulations. And did you help too? Thank you. I'll see you at the parade, okay? Okay. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.
That was cute. That was fun. Thanks. All right. Thanks, JC. All right. Next is our second informational item of the evening. Excel Energy Wildfire Mitigation Efforts. And in the room, we have Mr. Hans, is it Rodvik? Right. Area Manager, Community and Local Government Affairs. Sir, thank you very much for coming tonight and presenting us to us.
My name's Hans Rodvik. I'm the local area manager in Northern Colorado with Excel Energy. I handle our community relations and local government affairs throughout the region. Cover basically from Estes Park out to Sterling. And a couple months ago, had the opportunity to meet with Helen and Erica and just wanted to brief the town on our wildfire mitigation efforts. It's a pretty big plan we filed this July with the Public Utilities Commission. And just trying to get out and make folks aware of it. The plan was filed back in July and it's going through the regulatory process. And as part of our efforts to keep folks engaged, just here tonight and have a quick slideshow to run through, and then happy to answer any questions you guys might have. Next slide, please. So there's our agenda. We'll go to the next slide. That's me. And then just as a quick highlight about Excel Energy. So we're the state's largest utility. We're a investor-owned utility, meaning we have shareholders. We're on the stock exchange, but we also have to be fully accountable to the Public Utilities Commission and then obviously the communities we serve. We have about 1.5 million natural gas customers and 1.6 million electric customers. And this just kind of shows a little bit about how much power we generate each year and the size of our system here in the state. Next slide, please. So the context for this evening, I know we're in November, we're kind of past the peak season for wildfires, but as we all know, wildfires can happen kind of at any time in the state here with the weather and the dryness and the conditions we've seen that have been changed over the last number of years. And so our part as a utility is to make sure that no catastrophic wildfires occur as a result of our system. So whether that's poles that get knocked over or things that happen along our lines during extreme weather events, we do not want to be causing wildfires. And so we put together this plan based on industry experience, kind of a collaborative approach. We want to make sure that we get good feedback from the communities. The Public Utilities Commission has a robust process that allows for folks to weigh in, be interveners, and then obviously provide comments, changes and suggestions, letters of support, things of that nature. Next slide, please. So just really quick, I want to touch on why outages occur before we kind of dive into some of the key aspects of our plan. There's 6 main reasons. Severe weather obviously is top of mind. We had the snowstorm here this last week. There were a variety of outages across our system. I think at peak, we had about 50,000 customers out throughout the state. Obviously, a lot of that was in the metro area and then out east. But there were outages up here and tried to communicate with the towns and the managers in those areas as they arose. Obviously, there's trees and vegetation that can get in our way. People like to run into our poles all the time, unfortunately. Equipment fails, so we're out there making sure that we are upgrading and replacing equipment on as needed and proactive basis. There's plenty of squirrels and rabbits and birds that like to get into our lines. And so that's a pretty common occurrence. And then obviously when folks are out doing work in the area, whether it's contractors or homeowners, things happen and lines get hit underground. Next slide, please. So there's kind of a couple of major classifications based on industry standards. Momentary outages are those that most of us hardly even recognize. It's a quick blip that lasts 5 seconds or less. The second is a sustained outage that's more than 5 minutes in duration. Planned outages are those that we plan in advance to do significant work on some of our system. And when those occur, we do advance notice. We send out notices to the customers in the area. We do robocalls, sometimes text and emails, depending on the size and the nature of the outage. And then my job as the point person for the communities where these take place is to obviously notify town leadership. And then we have major events, which are, the natural disasters, catastrophic things that we can't control. So as we experience more severe weather here in the state, it's important for residents just to be aware of how they can prepare for outages. So we really encourage people to build home emergency kits, and especially if folks are more vulnerable and they have key medical, whether it's a medical asset or prescriptions that they need, to really take that into consideration. There's a lot more information that's available through our mobile app or website. So I just encourage folks to dive in there. So turning to wildfire, next slide, please. So over the last couple of years, we have put in about $500 million into the state as it relates to wildfire mitigation efforts. And that's kind of a buzzword in our industry right now, but what it really means is that we are actively working to replace poles that are high risk. So a lot of them get waterlogged and then they dry out in the summer, and those are very, very high risk pieces of assets that we have to replace. So we're using unmanned aerial systems, drones, to inspect our lines. We're also sending out crews to visually inspect those lines to see if there's any issues out there, and a couple other of the big things. But one of the key ones is vegetation management, and that's going to take place over the next 3 years here to the tune of $150 million, as if the PUC does approve our plan. So this is slide didn't come through fully. So this is kind of an overview of what our whole comprehensive plan actually entails. So as you can see, it's everything from technology assets to building out our own weather system and weather monitoring stations across the state. We've worked closely with a variety of counties, to include Larimer County, to get very high-tech cameras installed on top of cell towers that have the capacity to early detect wildfires. And they actually did that this year down in Boulder County. And that really is helpful, because we can alert emergency responders as quickly as possible so they can get out there and contain those fires. Obviously, there's key undergrounding efforts that are going to take place. So we'll take our poles that are overhead and run those lines underground in those high-risk areas. A lot of those are going to be close to communities, and a variety of other factors here that we're going to talk about in a second. Next slide, please. That's okay. Does anyone have any questions so far? I just wanted to, we can make this a dialogue. Happy to answer questions as we go.
No, I just have a comment. Right after the Marshall Fire, I applaud Excel for getting those poles back up and running the day after.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I don't know where that comment would go to or who, but on behalf of the people that live there and
Yeah.
the businesses that were there, thank you very much, because I'm also part of the fire board and I got to see firsthand right after it happened. So
Yeah,
it was devastating. So thank you. I just want to make sure that you guys knew that
appreciate that, Mayor.
others really know what happened behind the scenes.
Yeah, we do have pretty incredible crews. This wildfire plan has some tools that have been a little bit challenging for not only for our teams to implement, but also challenges that have been felt by residents and customers throughout the state as it relates to some of the settings that we've placed on our lines that make them more sensitive and have caused some more frequent and longer outages. But we do have some pretty incredible crews. We've built a very reliable system. And so when outages do take place, people wonder what's going on, right? And that's just, I think, a testament to the guys that are out there in the field every day and every night, keeping the lights on. So Techno Silva, real quick, is one of our partners that's helped us build out our modeling for the weather, basically. So instead of relying on external sources of information, we have proactively invested and partnered with these guys. They work with a lot of utilities across the country, and basically we're setting up these weather stations around the state to make sure that we're getting accurate and real-time data. There was the big windstorm back in April that impacted Boulder County, where we did the proactive shutoff of power. And the models that Techno Silva was using showed that it was a very, very, very high likelihood that our assets were going to cause a wildfire had they remained on in these key neighborhoods. We saw wind speeds over 90 miles an hour during that event. And so having this data in real time leading up to that decision is super important to us. So that's one part of the one part of the pie here that, we want to have the most accurate information when we are making these very serious decisions that impact a lot of people. So next slide here. So we're going to get into the tools that everybody is really going to feel as we continue to build out this mitigation program. Enhanced power line safety settings. I'm not an electrician and I'm not an engineer, but the way that I understand it is basically our crews and the folks that run the system, they place a setting on our lines to where they become more sensitive to faults and trips and impacts to them, whether it's and these settings are only put in place when you have higher wind speeds, relatively low humidity, very low moisture, and it's very hot. So the conditions are like a red flag day. A lot of times is when we will have these settings in place. And we started using them this spring, and they were in place all throughout the summer. And so what these do is essentially it keeps the power on, keeps the system running the same as it always would. But if things start getting a little haywire there, instead of keeping power on as normally happens, the lines de-energize to mitigate any sort of risk. And so we send out crews manually who go out and patrol the lines, visually inspect things, make sure there's no real problems happening, and then they re-energize the lines and restore power. And so that's where a lot of communities, not so much up here, but we had some problems out in Platteville this summer. In this territory, we had a lot of issues out on the western slope. So some of the communities really felt it and they raised their concerns to us, and we've tried to make those changes. So these settings are in place, and they'll continue to be part of our system. And we're just continuing to invest in ways that we can make the lines better and more resilient even when these settings are in place. So happy to answer any questions on those if folks have them. Then we get to the big one, the public safety power shutoff. So full context, we were the second utility in the country outside of PG&E to do this this April when we turned the power off down there in Boulder. And that was a very tricky situation. We didn't know whether we were going to do it right up until honestly like the last minute, the very night before. And the weather changed at the last moment and we proceeded to make that decision. And so what this is, again, we rely on these models. We rely on the real-time data. We're communicating constantly with the National Weather Service, our meteorologist, and we target an area to where we're going to de-energize while that storm impact happens. And then we immediately get back out there as quickly as possible to re-energize once the storm's passed. And so we learned a lot after that April event, not only from public, but internally in the crews that had to go deal with that. And so I want to talk about a little bit about how we're going to improve when these events come up here in a second. Next slide, please. So it's pretty basic. The EPSS and PSPS under the enhanced power line safety settings, power remains on. System is normal. It's just in a more sensitive setting. Public safety power shut off. Power is proactively turned off to keep the public safe. So just wanted to clarify that in case there are any questions on that front. So as part of our filing with the Public Utilities Commission, we have written into the playbook this exact script. And so it's going to fall a lot on myself and counterparts across the state. We're building out a whole wildfire team to do community relations and engagement. But as an area manager, my job is to communicate with the town. And so in the event something like this happens, you're going to hear a lot from me. And you're going to hear a lot from a lot of other outlets within Excel. We almost had to do this back in September, October, over in Grand Junction. So there was a lot of work done, public releases, social media, advanced, news conferences, things like that. The area manager was communicating with the town because there was a big storm that came in, and thankfully it kind of passed and we didn't have to do this, but it just showed that we're already working these tools. Next slide, please. So again, it's just, we're really trying to be on the cutting edge of this. Our current president, Robert Kenny of Colorado, Excel, he came from PG&E, so he lived through the difficulties of what went down when they caused those fires and had the impacts in those towns in California. So he's hyper aware of what can happen when utilities cause fires. So he does not want that to happen under his watch. And so the whole team is committed to this from a company perspective. And so it's going to be very comprehensive. We're going to be doing a lot of work over the next 3 to 4 years on this front, and just continuing to make sure that our system is safe and reliable for years to come. Next slide. So here's the breakdown. I think it's pretty cool how much money we're going to be spending on vegetation management. If you can see the slide, it shows that we're doing about $150 million over the next 3 years. And I'm biased because I live up here in Northern Colorado. I'm working pretty closely with the folks over at the Larimer County Office of Emergency Management and their commissioners to make sure we can get some serious investments targeted over there. Obviously, there was a lot of wildfires there this summer. And so I'm going to do everything I can to actively advocate for the company to really target this area. And so it just shows a breakdown. A lot of it's real world work out in the field, improving our system, enhancing the lines, making things safer. And it's not just a bunch of paper shuffling behind the scenes. So it's nearly a $2 billion investment. This was actually Excel's largest filing ever with the Public Utilities Commission. So there was probably, I think we had 10 or 15 different company leaders and all of their teams come together and provide testimony. So very comprehensive. It just goes to demonstrate how serious we take the situation. And then obviously we're continuing to engage communities we serve. That's why I'm here tonight. My job is to be your guys' point person. So I take feedback back to the company and try to honestly advocate for the towns in my area and make your concerns heard just as loudly as possible. So we'll be planning some kind of safety events and kind of larger public outreaches probably in the new year. We've beefed up the wildfire team. And so I'll keep folks abreast of those as they're actually planned and put into place. But I think we'll have one in Greeley sometime in Q1 next year. And then this is the final slide, just talking about the regulatory process. Excuse me. The PUC has a pretty robust process. We filed this in July, and it probably won't even be done until next July, until the plan is officially certified. So there's a lot of opportunity for the public to weigh in, for communities to weigh in, for stakeholders to weigh in. So if folks have questions or thoughts on ways you guys could do that, just let me know. Excuse me. And that is it. Sorry, losing my.
It's okay. It's all right. It's just, I know.
This is like my third presentation today. So I
Oh, okay.
apologize.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll keep this quite short for you. Questions or comments for Mr. Roddick?
Mayor, I just have
Sure,
one.
Holly. Sure.
Thanks, Hans. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I noticed on one slide you mentioned that red truck that you guys bring to the festivals. And we'd
Yes.
love it if you brought it to our community day.
Yes.
You know, I in watching this and remembering the thing in Boulder last year, or I guess it was this year, the one thing, the press was terrible on it, and you would think in close proximity to a fire, people would get it, but it seems like there's a lot of explaining to do after the fact. And I think this is important for us to learn before the fact, but then when you have to do one of those shutdowns, it just seems like so many people think there's some conspiracy theory that you're targeting them for some reason other than trying to protect them from a wildfire risk. So
Yeah.
anything you can do to give us information that we can help, because, we have United Power here, but it's all going to be the same situation. I just think it's important that we can have some kind of feedback loop so people know why it was done and how it may happen again.
No, I agree, Helen. It's there's nothing that the utility wants less than it's to cause a wildfire. And man, I'm losing my voice. I apologize.
Thank
we'll get the red truck here next summer.
There you go.
Really, all I wanted was that commitment. Thank you.
All right, look,
So-
we're gonna let you go.
I apologize.
No worries. Thank
And,
you very, very much. And keep Helen and Lorelai, who is our PIO, and in check. So if there's anything that you want to come back next year after, or invite us to a webinar or invite us to the meeting in Greeley, that'd be great.
Sure thing.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, and I'll leave a stack of my cards with Mary.
Okay.
I gave her some
Yeah.
brochures just so you guys have awareness.
Perfect. We have those two at our
Okay.
table. So thank you very much. All right.
Thank you all.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Take care.
Thank you.
All right, then third informational item for this evening is November 5th, 2024 municipal election unofficial results will be presented by our Administrative Services Director, Mary Strutt.
All right, I'm just going to put up a slide with the election results. I did want to explain just a little bit the difference between unofficial results and official results. The unofficial results for any election start coming out on election day after the ballots close. So our unofficial results started coming out from Weld County on November 5th, about 7:10 p.m. was the first unofficial results that was released. They keep releasing unofficial results and updating them as they count more ballots. So the ballots that were, or the count that was released at 7:10 on election day was generally a lot of those mail-in ballots that came in early. And then they continued to count the ballots that came in a couple of days before the election or even on election day. And that's why those were updated for so many days. Carly Copus, the Weld County Clerk and Recorder, did state on Saturday that they have counted all of the ballots so far in Weld County. So the results that I'm going to put up, go ahead to the slide, are the results as of Saturday that were released. The unofficial results stay unofficial results until they get the official results. Right? What's happening in between there is that military and overseas voters have an extra 8 days to get their ballots in. So their ballots will still be counted if they come in after election day. They have to be postmarked prior to election day, but they still can come in later if they're overseas or military voters. The other thing that still may be counted is ballots that were kicked out of the process in the signature verification process. So every ballot, you sign the back of your envelope, right? When you sign the back of your envelope, an election judge does compare those to your signatures on file. Your signatures on file are generally your driver's license signature and any ballots that you've signed in the past. If they don't think those signatures match, like maybe your wife signed your ballot for you or your husband or your mother or father, they'll kick those back if the signatures don't seem to match or if you forgot to sign it. So they'll send it back to you and said, we're not counting your ballot unless you say that you sent it in. So again, they have 10 days then to send those back in and say, yes, I voted, please count my ballot. Weld County Elections does have a list on their website of those ballots that were sent back. Anybody whose ballot was sent back should have gotten a letter in the mail saying that it was sent back and how to cure that. But if you want to check the list to see if your name's on it, it is on Weld County Election site. There are about 68 within the town of Mead. So, but those votes will be counted if they get sent back in. So after those votes are counted, the official results will be released. Again, Carly Copus said those would be released on November 14th. They're due by statute to be released on the 15th. So here's what we have for today. Not sure if that's quite big enough to read, but those are the trustee elections. So it is trustee Chris Parr. So we had 7 candidates for the 3 positions. So the 3 with the highest votes are the ones who would get the positions on the board. Currently, the 3 with the highest votes are Brooke Babcock with 1,518, Jeremiah Crane with 1,132, and Brad Hagan with 1,127. And again, those numbers may change slightly once the official count comes in, but those are the current counts as of now. And some of them are pretty close, not close enough for a recount, in my opinion. A recount is done, automatic recount is done when they're within 0.5%. That's about 5 votes. So right now, it doesn't look like this would warrant any automatic recounts. Next. So the next question was ballot issue 2Q, which was the public safety sales tax. This measure failed, 2005 votes to 1831 votes. So this was the police, the sales tax to support the police, SROs and public safety facilities. So it did fail in the town of Mead, and it looks like it will. Next is ballot question 2R, which was, should the town of Mead lift the ban on marijuana and regulate marijuana shops in the town of Mead? And this failed also. 2,272 no's to 1,574 yeses. So Mead will still not be allowing marijuana in town. So those are the results as I have them. Again, we'll get the updated results this Thursday or Friday from Carly Copas, and we'll get those sent out. Any recounts would be due by November 20th. The town of Mead is expected to swear in our new trustees at our next meeting, which is November 25th at 6:00 p.m. Any questions?
Questions for Mary? Comments? Thank you very much, Mary. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll move on to our public comment. The board welcomes public comment at this time, for any item on the agenda. We will also take comments for items not on the agenda during the second public comment, item number 9. The board will listen to your comments and take them into consideration. If you desire conversation, please email the board or the town manager or attend the monthly coffee with the mayor. If you wish to speak during this public comment period, please adhere to the town's general guidelines. Please start by stating your full name and address for the record. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the Board of Trustees. If you are representing a group, you will have 5 minutes. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to speak to the Board of Trustees on any item any agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. The consent agenda contains items which are considered routine and are approved with one motion and vote. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Parr,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright,
Yes.
Trustee Schranz.
Yes.
Trustee Adams,
Yes.
Trustee Harris,
Yes.
Trustee Broadhead,
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, staff, very much for putting the consent agenda item. And thank you very much, Mary, for putting the new register for us to approve tonight. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next, we'll move on to our second public comment. We have no further general business right now, so we'll move on. We will follow the same guidelines previously stated. Is there anyone here in the audience that would like to speak to the Board of Trustees on anything?
With 325 Main Street. So everybody knows I ran for trustee. Unfortunately, I didn't get there, but 2 of my friends did. And the reason I ran was numerous items, which we don't have time to go over all of them right now. But I'll start with the first thing, which was I presented a dog park suggestion a while back, and I was shot down. Told it was cost about $60,000 to maintain. So I plan on pushing for a dog park. I've talked to numerous people. I've got 60 signatures for a dog park, and I plan on moving forward with that and making sure that gets put on agenda. Secondly, the police substation. The lot north of Ziggy's, I've suggested that become a substation for the police, and I plan on getting that moved onto the agenda as well. I've talked to numerous people, and they all support such an item. Thirdly, the code enforcement officer. Carl stood in front of you all and rattled off a bunch of numbers, and they were all true. I found Carl. I sat down with him for 2 hours. I looked where he got his numbers from, and they were all true. Nobody on this board bothered to check and see what Carl was talking about. Instead, 8 days later, you suspended him, and then you fired him 7 days after that, more or less. I plan on trying to bring him back. If I have an issue with that, I have about 80 people right now that'll come in front of this board, the new board, and give testimony for 3 minutes apiece. as to why Carl should be here. I also want an investigation into what he said and why he was fired. Everybody on this board should have looked into that. Nobody did. All this kind of stuff really irritates me because I've lived here almost 9 years. And none of you all acknowledge any problems. That's why I ran. So I plan on pushing all these things. I am opening a website, which I've never done before, and I will constantly post what goes on in this meeting. I will make sure that the town, the people of the town are heard by the board. My 2 members that ran with me, if you're not behind them, the town will be behind them. But I will get a lot of this stuff done, including Carl reinitiated. I don't care what you had him sign. The board has the power to overrule that. His position needs to be moved also to supervision under the police chief, not under community development. Community development needs to be moved to a board appointed position. Too much power, too many problems. This man right here.
Mr.
has
Smith,
caused
please,
a lot of
please,
problems in
please talk to
town,
the Board of Trustees.
and
Thank you.
he needs to be in an appointee position. Too many people have complained to me about it. All these things I will push forward, whether you guys like it or not, because I've talked to a lot of the town. The only reason I'm not running on up there with my guys is because I didn't put something in the newspaper. Brad knew 4 people. I got him elected. I'm not going away.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to the Board of Trustees tonight? All right. Thank you very much. We'll move on to elected official reports by any of the town trustees. Okay, seeing none, I don't have anything, and we'll move into executive session. I ask for a motion to go into executive session.
Mayor, I make a motion. I move to go into executive session pursuant to CRS section 24-6-402 4B for legal advice on specific legal questions pertaining to the Board of Trustees rules of procedure and standards of conduct. And I further move to reconvene the November 2024 regular meeting at the conclusion of the executive session in order to continue with the November 12th regular meeting agenda or to adjourn the November 12th regular meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. In discussion? Roll call, please, Mary.
Trustee Adams.
Yes.
Trustee Shranz.
Yeah.
Trustee Broadhead.
Yes.
Trustee Harris.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Cartwright.
Yes.
Trustee Parr.
Yes.
Mayor Whitlow.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. We will now go into executive session, and thank you very much, public, for being here tonight. We'll take a 5-minute break.
And I'll stop the recording at 6:43.